morning, everyone. As you just heard, I'm Tamara. I go by she, her pronouns, and I'm the president and CEO of Washington Area Women's Foundation. In a moment, I'll explain a little bit about why I am dressed this way. But I will say first that we are here to move us into the last day of this conference, which has been fantastic. And I want to call particular attention to yesterday's lunch plenary. Who was here for that? So Melissa, Shonda, and Brandy were fantastic. And among the things they talked about was this flawed model of leadership within philanthropy that is disproportionately impacting Black women and gender-expansive leaders to the extent that folks are leaving in droves. So I'm taking this point of personal privilege to give thanks for that because it resonates. Washington Area Women's Foundation is currently hosting a project that is the brainchild of some leaders locally who feel that the infrastructure for Black women and gender-expansive leaders is broken. And they commissioned a study. The results of that study are going to come out next month. But the themes are the same as what was discussed yesterday. And I want to say in this space, since it's clear to me that we are all collectively invested in rising together, we got to get our house in order because leaders are leaving the sector in droves. And that really requires structural fixes and interpersonal fixes. So I'm off my soapbox. I had to say that. And again, many thanks to them for being so brave and showing up the way they did yesterday. Okay, so now to this sweatshirt. I am not channeling my 11-year-old that wears hoodies in 90-degree weather. I am wearing this sweatshirt that says brunch because 3.5 years ago, and it's been 3.5 years, y'all, when the world shut down, the first thing that I named as trauma for me was that I missed brunch. And yes, I love a good carb that I don't have to cook, but what that was really about was missing my friends and missing community. And it was also about that being a go-to form of self-care. So 3.5 years later, as I'm grabbing a hold of the various things that used to be a part of my self-care routine, full body massages, taking trips when I could, talk therapy, how have I been changed? How have all of us been changed? By the collective grief that we experienced, by the collective trauma that we experienced, and what is needed today. I am not the same person I was 4 years ago. So I need all that and then some. And the main thing I want to talk to you about is how to source joy instantaneously. What are ways that we can call it up in a moment where we're having a really difficult conversation with a jerk who is a funder that we're sitting across the table from, right? When we're coming out of an appointment with our mom who just got a cancer diagnosis, how do we deal with that? So I'll tell a quick story about the way that I used to source joy and self-care, and then I'll circle back to my 3 go-tos. Is that all right with you all? Yeah. Okay, so quick story is 18 months into the pandemic, I was burned out, emotionally exhausted, made the decision, the most radical decision I've ever made in my life, to take time away from the professional world. The first thing I did was super fun. I went and got a mammogram. So fun. And the woman who was doing my intake wanted to confirm my employment history. And I told her, oh, what you have in the system is old, and anyway, I've stepped away. And she looked up at me and she said, you must have a really supportive husband. Now, in her defense, she could see that I was married on the form, right? And I took a beat, and what I was confronted with in that moment was that my choice, which did feel like preventative care to step away, was dripping in privilege. Dripping in it. And that's not a criticism, right? That's just a fact. So I took a beat, I looked at her, and I said, you know what? I do. I have a really supportive husband, and y'all, he looked at me about 9 months in and said, yeah, you don't look like you're doing so well, right? And then 9 months later, we sat down, we figured out how we could make this work, and I did. So I was clear then, and I'm clear now, that the majority of women and gender-expansive folks in this country cannot afford to step away for any amount of time. They also can't afford full body massages. They also can't afford to take a trip someplace with nice white sand and clear water, right? So as I'm getting back to being able to do some of those things from a space of privilege, I'm keyed into ways that I can hold space with and have some kind of connection to the majority of folks in this country and across the globe that have limited resources. Okay, so here is the fun part, right? We've been talking about some heavy stuff. We hold this heavy stuff. My go-to quick hat, first of all, is music. That song that I came out to was I Know You, I Live You by Shaka Khan. And we love our playlists, we love music, but I'm saying, like, use it as a tool. Have it on the ready, right? And that song, my shoulders drop, I can't help but to move. I was trying to be serious, but I had to move them. So what's your song? Second thing is image. What's your go-to image? What's the screensaver on your phone? What is the image that you need to call out that'll prevent you from going across the table and strangling someone when they say something nutty, or they say what you just said like you didn't just say it, right? We've all experienced that. What's the go-to image? Our kiddo had a really bad accident during the pandemic, actually during those 10 months I took off. And she's fine, kids are resilient, helmets work, God is good. But my therapist worked with me to come up with a replacement image because we witnessed the accident. And so that trauma, I was able to address it by having something that I could turn to. And so images are key. What's your go-to picture? The third thing, which I think is most relevant to this space, as we're trying to figure out who we are, right? And I'll just keep owning it myself. I'm not the same person. So hard pants are oppressive to me, right? Yeah. That was not a thing 4 years ago, right? Thus these flowy pants that I'm wearing as part of my presentation. I'm also not squeezing my feet into really uncomfortable shoes. That's done. So as I'm trying to figure out who I am, particularly in spaces like this, I have found that offering a compliment is like the happy hormones just come popping up, right? It sounds like something that's for someone else, but when you offer a genuine compliment to someone, it feels so good. I told Paris that her shoes were fire before we came up here, just to give myself a boost, right? That is one of the small things you can do as you're figuring out how to show up. It's a small point of connection, does not require an awkward moment, does not require a long conversation, right? You're lifting someone else up, but you're also making yourself feel better. So what are your things? Yesterday, Brandy mentioned essential oils, that she went back to the quiet room and grabbed some, and it helped calm her. What do you need? Because we all need more than we used to, and we all have so much work ahead and work to do. Last thing I'll say is, I had asked folks to pull up an image of Cookie Monster, because aside from our kiddo, this is a go-to for me. I have a lifelong adoration for Sesame Street. So when I am feeling my most overwhelmed, and the things that have been shared this week about maternal health, right? All of the things can just feel like you're drowning. So what's your Cookie Monster, right? What's the thing that you can source instantly to help keep you going? So thank you for allowing me to share this space. I hope you took a little something from it, and I hope you really will sit with what your needs are today versus 3.5 years ago. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for that. I think my Cookie Monster are baby animals. I think I'm so glad that the Instagram exists mainly just for baby animals. How about y'all? So good morning, y'all. I want you to turn to your neighbor and say good morning. Yes, good morning, good morning. It's early for me. I am a night owl. I was listening to Belladonna last night. What a gift. But I'm really glad to be here. My name is Paris Hatcher. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. And I have the privilege and honor to be the founder and executive director of Black Feminist Future. Woo! And shout out to the Black Feminist Meetup organized by Nia Mitchell this morning. So amazing. We are a national member-centered membership organization that's committed to building power with and for Black women, girls, and gender-expansive people. And today I'd like to offer some ideas and thoughts about change. And I'm in good company. Over the last few days, so many folks have been talking about change and the necessity of it, the requirement that our strategies, investments, and even who we are must change and to rise to this moment. So it's my intention to build on what folks have offered over the couple days. So this year I've entered my 30th year as an activist and my 20th year in the nonprofit sphere. And many of us get involved in this work as donors, as activists, as leaders, because we're called to leave the world better than we found it. And for me, I heard that call really young. I'm from Greensboro, North Carolina, known as the birthplace of the civil rights movement, of the sit-ins. And so I learned when I was, growing up at a very young age, that when people come together sharing a collective vision and purpose rooted in justice, that you can change the world. It's stories like Greensboro 4, the Little Rock 9, Rosa Parks, and Harriet Tubman that called me to my life's purpose. And when I think about my life's purpose, Black feminism has been my blueprint, my anchor, and my guiding light. And my work builds on the Black feminists that have come before me. And so for this Spark Talk, I want to bring in the Black feminist North Star that talks about change so eloquently and wonderfully. And y'all know who I'm talking about, Octavia Butler. She offers in her novel Earthseed that all that you touch, you change. All that you change changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change. And I think what we can say, and I'm just building off what you offered, that there's no doubt that 2020 changed us. The COVID pandemic, 26 million people strong across the world taking action for Black liberation and against police violence. It was an incredibly powerful time. And more resources moved to Black-led organizations than ever before. That year changed us. And 3 years later, many Black-led orgs are fearful for our future. My org, BFF, received some of those necessary funds, and let's be real, the resources received were a drop in the bucket. You've heard the resources that have been shared over the last couple of days, or even the reports from the National Committee for Responsive Philanthropy. The Black Funding Denied report really outlines the gaps that I'm talking here. Promises were made to Black-led movements, and they've already started to dry up. Donors are asking, where's the progress? And it's only been 3 years. And there's a doubt and uncertainty in investing in what is the unknown. It's called the unknown in Black leaders and intersectional work, and something that's been different from before. So from my disappointment and fury, I'm gonna offer a change plan to this group because number one, I'm a Virgo and I love a plan, but I also, it's always nice to offer 3 steps on what we can do together. So 1, change is hard, we gotta do it anyway. There's all this research about how our brains literally hate change. They're hardwired to reject it. Even good change, we resist it. So what does this mean for us? So all of y'all have read the reports, you've talked to your shareholders, you've held the convenings, you've done the trainings on bias and how to be an ally. You have been talking about trust-based philanthropy, and still so much funding is replicating the dated status quo. So the status quo shows up when you have an idea of what a feminist leader or feminist organization looks like. And what that means is that someone like me is not what comes to mind. Even though the organization that I work with is named Black Feminist Future, the conversations that I have folks have questions if we're really committed to Black work or feminist work. And we're like, we do it all, we do it both. When we talk about feminist work, people still go back to dated tropes of bra burning or Gloria Steinem in the 70s, and we are in 2022, right? And so those tropes erase people like me and the thousands of Black feminists across the globe on the front lines who are leading social medias. Not social medias, that too, but social movements. The face of our movements have changed, and the mandate of this time is, what are you going to do to change the funding strategies to support these shifts? 2020 changed us, but many of us went back to our old ways of being. If we intend to survive, we have to change. So second thing, number 2 on the plan, lasting change requires transformative community. And community, being able to see oneself in a collective space for growth and transformation, is nourishing. And this space is key. Spaces like this where you get to meet folks, but also meet folks that are not always the folks you hang out and run with, right? You have to find people, different people, the people who are willing to hold your doubt, support your transformation, and will hold you accountable. My challenge to each one of you is to reconnect or connect for the first time with someone who can be in your community of change. And lastly, change requires big action. We are overwhelmed with the terribleness of things. It feels unbearable. We often swap notes on what the opposition is doing. Can you believe they did this? Can you believe they did that? And I gotta say, y'all, I don't care what they're doing. I care what we are doing. And we can be doing a hell of a lot more. Let's just be honest. We can be doing a hell of a lot more. So if y'all were ever wondering if this is a go time, if there's a sounding alarm, now is the time. So what does big action mean? It means give it all you got. If you were wondering, hey, now is the time. Give as if the ocean is boiling, right? Because it is, right? Give as if books are being banned, because they are. As if abortion is banned, because it is. Give, give, give. Invest in out-of-the-box ideas and leaders you may not know personally, strategies that require new approaches, people who are really interested in just getting in there and experimenting and innovation. Philanthropy must be as unhindered, bold, and unwavering as the front lines. Meet us on the front lines. It must match our energy. It must not deter it. So, if you were wondering if it's time to play it safe, y'all, it's go time. The alarm is going off. So again, I want to close, and again, I want to close this with what Octavia Butler has to tell us about change, which is all that you touch, you change. All that you change changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change. And our next 3 steps. Change is hard. Do it anyway. Change requires transformative community. So find your people. Change demands big action. It's go time. So let's make some change, y'all. Thank you. Good morning.